I love the population of screens. We are back. That is the time that we've all been waiting for. The coup de grace, the icing on the cake. It's the forum. It's the panel. It's the speakers together at last.
Yes.
Quickly before we get into it, I'll just say a quick shout out to our amazing sponsors. Thank you to Astromojis, to Proof of Good DAO, to Impact, to Muse, and to all the amazing people that came and presented and who watched and who learned and who grew together today. And let's just get right into it, y'all. This is a mental health festival. I'm here with some mental health titans, industries, artists, activists, and entrepreneurs. That's who I see in front of me today. So I think I'll just get it started. Michaela, being that you are our sister on the stage right now, I'll start with you. As it relates to the work that Proof of Good is doing, as it relates to the work that you do for yourself in your practice and as a human living, like, why is it that, mental health as a topic became so paramount of importance to you personally?
Wow, this is interesting. I think it's something, growing up in a family with family members of mental illness, it was like something I was always kind of aware of. And it just, like, the more that because I'm very like intuitive and telepathic, and so the more that I can feel this like mental agitation and distress and despair, and people like just not having relationship with their inner resources, like feeling so on the edge, it's just something that I feel is so critical, because if you don't have like mental well-being, you can't, like, what can you do? You can't really have a full life. You can't really contribute your gifts. So to me, it's something that is just, I've been doing practices, and teaching for years and years with this. It's really, and it's worse now than when I was younger. I mean, there's some things that are better. Therapy has really progressed. It's not as much of a stigma getting therapy, and therapeutic like methods and processes and practices have really grown so much over the last 20 years. So there's like these days so much understanding of trauma and how that creates what like dysregulation in the nervous system and shows up as mental health problems. And I feel like there's so much in our culture, our institutions, the kind of mass belief systems, and then how we've developed our technology, that these are, again, constant like stressors on mental health and resiliency, emotional resiliency. And we're not taught, like, children, what's important in school is what you have to do on a standardized test. You're not taught in school emotional intelligence. You're not taught how to manage in interpersonal dynamics. You're not taught how to strengthen and build your sense of self-worth and self-love and self-esteem. Self-care is not the thing that is most valuable in grade school. You're not taught any of this. So to me, there's like so many, it's like very complex causes that create a mental health like epidemic of issues. And then we saw in the pandemic, it's like the idea, like one thing that everybody learned is like, oh my God, we really need each other, or we go crazy. We literally lose our...
No question. And it's the way that we've survived as a species, right? We came together against the Neanderthals. It was through community. And this kind of leads me into a perfect segue. Dr. Farid and Dr. Moore as well, if either of you want to jump in. But, I listen to you both speak so often. I've gotten to know you both through the spaces that we share, and I'm grateful for them. But Dr. Farid, I'll go with you first. Like, based on what Michaela was saying, right, these advancements that we've made in the medical field and the advancement we made technologically with Web3, what excites you most about these these new innovations that are occurring in your field?
Yeah, I think it's, first of all, great to be here with you all, and to, I enjoyed all the talks today. I learned a lot hearing everybody. Dr. Owen, someone I get to work with through Astromojis, but everyone else as well. But yeah, this is an exciting time. I mean, it's always an exciting time. There's new things happening, but we're looking at Web3. I'm really excited because one of the biggest barriers to people getting mental health treatment is access. And so that could show up in a bunch of different ways. But we're very lucky to have Dr. Owen, who is really in the cutting edge of understanding this blend of technology and how we can provide mental health services in this new space. So, anytime there's a new space, it's obviously new. We don't know exactly what the future will hold, but we're excited to see how we can include mental health in this space. And personally, I love the Astromojis project because it's about focusing on mental health. As we go into any area of life, we can make sure we stay connected to ourselves and understand what's going on. So you can be in the metaverse, but still check in with yourself and notice your breathing, notice how you're feeling and what's going on. And so we want to make sure that part of the culture of the metaverse and part of the culture of Web 3.0 is focusing on mental health and not losing sight of that. Because ultimately the metaverse can create lots of connections, but we want to make sure it doesn't take us away from connecting to ourselves and others and actually lead to disconnection. So I'm very excited to see what we can do as we're creating this culture. It's a new culture of Web 3.0, making sure mental health is a big part of that.
Thanks, Dr. Farid. I'm so thrilled to be with you all here today. And Carlene and I were watching some of the presentations from together in our bedroom, and both of us kind of looked at each other at the same time and said, wow, this is like way better than all the conferences we've been to. And that isn't trivial, right? The ability to communicate in a way that people can understand and in a way that strikes you as being somewhere, being part of something. When I got to look around and see even the avatars of the rest of you in the audience, I felt there. I felt included in a way I haven't felt at conferences for professionals talking on Zoom or whatever. It feels disconnected and boring, and this didn't. And that's a big deal because it's that feeling of connection that lets us take any information and turn it into something we might believe or even do. So just the potential to be here together with everyone watching in a way that's not just entertaining or interesting, but relevant. Like, you might hear something someone said and it might actually change what you do. That's the magic, right? I can have all the good ideas all day long in the world. You know what you should do, said every friend of yours ever. And it doesn't. And there was something about hearing Dr. Farid say it, even on a screen with the rest of us, around, in a way that felt real enough to me to feel different than when I was watching it in other contexts or hearing it in other contexts. So that feeling of connection plus great information, I think that changes things in a way we haven't been able to previously. And, we're all around the world right now. And that's never been possible in this way before.
Unbelievable. And I think, you are making these transitions so incredibly easy, by the way. One of the best things about this global community is we get to see global expression, right? All different art mediums are participating in this amazing space. We actually have some amazing artists on stage with us right now. I wanted to kind of ask some of the artists that we have on the panel, Robert and Marwan, and I'll start with you, Robert. As you're creating your work and as you're kind of expressing yourself through this lens, how does mental health and kind of mental health and wellness awareness influence you in your work?
Well, I work with many first responders, first of all, and the suicide rate for these individuals are astronomical. So what I noticed is that yoga and meditation was helping them tremendously, and the statistics were changing as a result of people really making a sincere attempt to heal. So it began my journey photographing yoga all over the world. And the way that this all started was the first time I ever went into a prison to photograph the yoga programs in the United States prison system. The warden told me afterward, I noticed that the guys who do the yoga and meditation make better choices. And that would inspire me to go all over the world and photograph anyone and everyone in pursuit of healing. Because as we all know, this life is very challenging, and we need tools in order to move forward and survive and thrive.
Wow. My goodness. And this is unbelievable. The people I'm on stage with right now are so inspiring to me. It's hard for me to contain. And one of them is Marwan Shaheen. I mean, you know, as somebody who tries to be an advocate for social justice, to be on a panel with an artist who uses their expression and puts themselves in harm's way, to express their values I'm deeply grateful and honored to be on stage with you. In the same question, you know, you've used your art in these prolific ways, but how does mental health and wellness kind of involve itself in your work process as well?
Thank you, Will. Thank you all for this amazing panel. Honestly, I'm beyond happy and beyond grateful for what we are accomplishing today. So, Will, to answer your question, really, like, I started off making art in Egypt during the Egyptian Revolution, and I was like making art during that period. I was struggling with a lot of like mental health issues, but I could never really talk about it. It was almost very taboo to talk about these things in where I was raised and where I was born. So it kind of like I just had to bottle that up, and for years, and I never understood what happened to me afterwards. I never really understood why this was happening until like I started researching and understanding more. I'm like, oh, I'm having like post traumatic stress. I'm having anxieties. I'm having all these issues that I need to address and deal with. But at the time, like there was literally like it was very hard to get access to these resources. And honestly, that's how the whole Astromoji project came about. Like me and Arya and Yurian were working on this project, and we wanted to make these resources accessible to everyone, especially in the Web3. Like just the fact that we can all have this access, we can all be here now listening to this at the same time, wherever you are in the world. And if we can use that to utilize that to give access to the people, to help people, to heal people, I feel like that's what we all need. Like uh that's just how I looked at it, and that's why the Astromojis project to me was like so meaningful, and it was like a necessity that needs to happen. But yeah, this is just like the beginning. Honestly, I'm grateful that we got to have like professionals like Dr. Farid and Dr. Owen just having their wisdom and their like knowledge involved in the process, and we can actually have like actual academic like perspective on things. Now we're just not just talking. We have actual mental health professionals that are actually helping us. You know what I mean? So like our partnership with Muse is huge because like what they're offering is a huge practice for you to be able to have um, a better understanding of your mental like state and how we can deal with things. And I feel like this is amazing that we can just like provide these services and provide these resources with just while I'm making the art for it. It's just a dream coming true. And like I've been making art for the people since I ever started. Like that was my whole that's the ethos of my work. Like I just am a server of like this is why I'm creating this work. So if I'm doing something like that, I feel like this is just the greatest thing to be able to do, you know?
Agreed, man. And I love how, you know, we're getting kind of this beautiful image of what mental health and wellness really looks like from a practice perspective, an art perspective, from an academia perspective, professional perspective, but then also the industries and the pioneers. And so you made an amazing reference to, you know, a partner of Astromojis, which is Muse. And we're fortunate to have the CTO and founder with us. So thank you so much, Chris, for being here. And my question to you on this note is, you know, as an industry leader, as a pioneer, you know, entrepreneur, what was it about mental health that you found a necessity or a need to address?
Yeah, well, you know, in my personal journey, just discovering some of these practices we can use to find better balance in our lives and to perform better. What I discovered is the tremendous benefit of having great guides and teachers. Um, and I think as human beings, it's very easy for us to almost be misled by our own you know, inner attractions. You could, it's nice to have this inner compass, but often what happens is the things that we find ourselves drawn to aren't necessarily the things that we need the most. It's coming from the wrong place, right? And so I think the nice thing about having a guide, someone who's external to yourself, is really that external viewpoint that you can use to cross-examine, you know, how you're conducting yourself and what you truly need to step into that next part of your story as you evolve. So Muse for us was really about providing a technology that could try to serve part of that role, was to provide that view from outside of yourself that you could use to understand, you know, what might serve you the best, you know, in this moment. And if you're engaged in practices like meditation, again, it's very easy for us to, in with our own self-guidance, really kind of be misled by the idea of what we should be doing. You know, a really simple example of this is you might learn to meditate by focusing on your breathing, and you can engage in doing that, but you might discover the trap of actually getting caught in the visualization of your breath, which is really a thinking process, right? So this is the imagination of a sensation, right? You're actually in a story, you're actually in the thought of something, as opposed to having the direct experience of something, which is really a living process, a part of being. So that was, you know, a real driving force for us, was really providing this accessibility for guidance for everyone who may not have access to a great teacher, or for someone who can play that role in their life, to have that, you know, that function as a guide, basically. So that was really the genesis behind Muse, was to have something that would have this scalability. And I think that's something that I appreciate most about the conversation we're having here, is about, you know, the scalability of, you know, these things that we truly need as humans to live the best version of ourselves, and to heal when we need healing, and when we're, you know, charging forth into the unknown, it's that guidance that can really help us make the right decisions. So I think, you know, just this notion of, you know, having a technological platform that can really reach many people, but also the good intention, you know, and especially this group here, I think it's a really exemplary group, where there's really a heartfelt desire to, you know, help people, you know, take the right steps for themselves, and to figure out how to use a new technology platform for good, right? There's, I think, technology naturally, you know, entraps us with its, you know, seductive qualities, and that can take us, you know, into realms where perhaps it's not doing us the best service. But we need to, as we evolve our technology, we need to figure out how to use these new platforms so that they don't get the better of us. You know, so I think the conversation we're having is tremendously important for that reason. I think we don't know yet, right? We don't know how are we going to, you know, live within this new world, or we're basically kind of almost becoming a disembodied version of ourselves. I think it's this beautiful. I think, you know, this idea that we can really feel connected to other people in these virtual realms, and I really believe that. But at the same time, we are projecting ourselves into a disembodied form. And what's the ramification of that? I don't think we know yet what the ramification of that is, and I'm really curious to be part of that. But I think, you know, really just paying attention to how that's serving us as embodied beings, you know, to continue to stay tethered to that, you know, I think, you know, not moving into pleasure, you know, as a way of escapism, but rather staying connected to how we're feeling, I think is a first step. But I think that we're on this really, you know, kind of crazy learning journey as we really step into a new way of connecting with each other deeply. And how do we do that without really losing ourselves in the process?
Wow.
I just want to jump in real quick.
Yes, please.
Yeah, no, actually, while we're looking, I think we have a bit of a tech issue. I think that we still have some of our featured artists and musicians playing in the background, so we might have some garbled audio, and I just want to make sure that everybody that's speaking, certainly with Chris, is able to be heard clearly. So maybe Aria, maybe Gene, maybe Remo, we could take a look into that and cut the DJs.
Amazingly, this is the beauty of a live event, is that things will happen in the moment, and it will just keep on going. So thank you for the update. And Chris, what you were just talking about is, you know what? I just want to let's just keep going with that conversation. What, Dr. Owen, I know you had the twinkle in your eye, like an idea came to you while you were speaking. Do you want to add on to that?
Sorry, I was playing along on the guitar. It was just so moving. One of the things Chris pointed out is, like, we don't know yet in Decentraland, and that's just true. We absolutely have no idea. We tell ourselves the story that we know in real life, in an office, on the street. And it's a story we tell ourselves. The fact that we kind of know what to do in this context, we may have more experience or more information about what it's like, but being curious about the internal state of other people is something we're kind of constantly turning on and off without even thinking about it. So when I walk down the street and pass somebody, I'm not going, I wonder if this is the most important day of their life or not. Maybe they're hungry. Like, that's not what's happening. And it's also not what's happening when I'm in therapy with my own therapist sometimes. We tune out of our own bodies in real life, and we tune out of our own bodies in other places. And I think virtual space shines a light on that in a way that, because it's new, we can't ignore as easily and just assume we know. And so it's the lack of assumptions plus the technology to help us be able to see inside ourselves that Muse, for example, brings to us, that lets us approach these old, ancient problems with new information and more curiosity, which may make it more impactful.
Wow. See, I love what you just added at the end there, like how a lot of these things existed before the metaverse, and it's just new ways of problem solving old problems. And it's like, Michaela, I know this is a topic that you and I talk about in Proof of Good all the time. So did you want to weigh in on this as well?
Yeah, Chris, I really think this whole issue of embodied versus disembodied experience, because generally, like, the things that make us feel most fulfilled, happiest, most whole are embodied experiences. And again, the pandemic, the lack of touch, the lack of, like, having a physical body in a physical space, the Zoom fatigue, like, who here has not had Zoom fatigue, right? So this is like a real issue. And at the same time, like, the metaverse experience opens so much possibility for us. So one of the things I'm really interested in is, like, the kind of physiological, neurological feedback technology that can we, instead of just having, like, basically a mobile phone on your head, can we tie it to things that are your heart rate variability, your breathing, what's happening in your brain waves? Like, I think we can really consider, like, if we have our goal in mind that the tech should enhance, improve mental and physical well-being, that it should help us with regulating our nervous system, regulating our emotions, then we'll develop it so it will do that. But if we don't start off with that as a value and a kind of criteria for development, then it won't get developed. So it's very interesting to me, because this whole, like Owen said, is like, you space out and dissociate. How many times have you driven down the road and, like, oh, how did I get here? Where were you? Right. So there's a lot of that going on too. But again, the experience of being really in your body in the present moment is generally the one that gives you the most health, vitality, well-being, and value.
I'm learning.
But
No, yeah, I'm learning more and more just how important mindfulness and being present really has an impact directly on just being happy or being at peace. Chris, I had a question for you as based on what Michaela was saying, as someone who's kind of leading this charge in the technology innovation happening in this field. What's something you're most excited about as a potential for Muse in this realm of, like, you know, guidance and technology and helping mental health and wellness?
There's a lot of stuff, actually.
Oh yeah.
But I think, you know, one thing that just came up for me in you know, what I've been hearing is, you know, being embodied isn't always the easiest thing, and I think this, while I absolutely agree with you, Michaela, 100%. You know, we do encounter this challenge of when we go into ourselves, when we encounter all the feelings that are there. You know, that can be very challenging for people to step into. And so I think that highlights kind of, you know, one of the core problems here, you know, when we offer so many amazing experiences to step out of your felt experience. You know, what is the incentive to step in? So I think I don't have an answer to that question, but I think that's a really important thing for us to really grapple with. I think that one thing for sure is, you know, all of us standing up for what we know is true and telling that story and helping people step into that experience in a way that feels good, you know, is really important. Certainly, that's what has helped me in my life, is, you know, the right people helping me step into myself and really recognize, you know, the beauty and value that's there. I think the technology can absolutely help. I mean, that really is the foundation of what Muse is trying to do, is provide people a vehicle to reconnect with themselves, with technology as a way of creating experience, which you know, highlights what's going on inside, so you can get to know it. You know, it's almost like having an amplifier, so you can, you know, if you're having trouble connecting, you can have something which can, you know, bring it forth very clearly. But it also offers an opportunity for a new medium of experience, where we can start to make art with our biosignals, our brain states, the different ways that we can sculpt our consciousness and touch our feelings. So that's, I mean, something that I've worked really hard at doing, is creating a platform where we can actually create new kinds of experience, where we can essentially make art that, you know, highlights and celebrates the inner experience that we have as humans. So I would say that if there's something that I'm excited about, like, that's fundamentally what it is. Like, can we provide a medium for, you know, the artists of the world to really celebrate what's happening inside of us? You know, we're doing some very cool things in the VR space right now. We're sort of taking our technology, evolving it, so now we can bring it into the visual realm as well as the auditory. I'm very excited about that, because there's a lot we can do that's extremely engaging and beautiful. And you know, our visual sense obviously is a huge component of, you know, our sense field as humans. But, you know, even in the auditory realm, there's a lot that you can do, and that has been the foundation of the work that Muse has been doing in the past, which is really providing that biofeedback through, you know, music and soundscapes, different kinds of, you know, feedback tones that can celebrate your inner vibrations, but also, you know, help you play with other states of consciousness that you might only touch when you're falling asleep. So there's a lot of cool things that we're doing there as well.
I wanted to add one thing I like about technology that studies your inside, you know, or your subconscious, you know, without really your direct control. Something like Muse is a very authentic data and or representation. Now, the thing about Astromojis is that, you know, our characters, they have, you know, two personas. You have the persona of the outer shell, which could be smiling, and the inner person that is wearing the shell, which could be, you know, sad, and they could be contrasting, they could be the same, whatever. And that represents the insecurity of people wanting to become vulnerable or authentic online. Whether it's someone showing that, you know, they're fit and happy and traveling on Instagram, or someone pretending to be a cat on Web3, you know, with an ape profile picture, whatever. But if there was, and maybe this is something you guys are working on, if Muse could present my authentic feeling or stress level, or where my head's at, that's something that is truly authentic. I don't need to speak for that. I don't need to change a profile picture. I don't need to do anything. The expression, it's very accurate, it's very pure. It's even difficult for an artist. I'm sure Marwan has had happy days where he was painting and sad days where he was painting. And if the client wanted something that is happy through rain or sunshine, he would have to execute something that's happy. But if these artworks that you're talking about really are coming from within, I think that's very authentic, and that is very representative of something that the NFT space could really use, because NFTs really represent authenticity in a digital sense. But where's the authenticity in the wellness or humane or humanity sense? And I think there's a great spot, and I hate to use this word in this space, product market fit spot for Muse. But yeah, I thought it was pretty awesome.
I love that. And speaking to authenticity in these fields, I think that I look no further than some of the people on this stage, but Dr. Farid is one of the most authentic tellers of truth in this field. And you had a glint in your eye, like you might have something you wanted to add.
Well, I kind of have something I want to add to almost everything everyone's saying, because it's been so inspiring, and there's so much there. I think it's pretty cool, what Arya was saying, along with what Chris was saying. I think Muse can be helpful because we are so disconnected from ourselves that we sometimes need these external measures to help us actually understand what's going on inside, which is so interesting, right? It's like the machine will tell us what's going on within us. And some of those points of, data points we might not be able to ascertain ourselves. But what we want to encourage is for more and more people to actually get in touch with what is going on within themselves. So I think Muse can actually help them recognize, oh, when I was doing this was going on, or I slept better, or I did this, or my heart rate or my brain waves, or in this kind of a way. Because that's something I notice with my clients as a therapist. People are so disconnected. Often I'll ask someone, how did you feel about something? And they say, I don't know. And kind of jokingly, I'll say, well, who should we ask? So it's kind of like they don't even know what they're feeling because they're so disconnected. And we have this assumption that because I'm me, I know me and I'm connected to me. But actually, we're very disconnected, especially in modern society, because there's so many external cues that tell us what we should be doing. You should have lunch at this time. You should sleep at this time. You should, feel this way. You should feel that way, that we disconnect completely from those internal signals. So I think what we want to do is encourage people, whether in Web3 or your, whatever life you're living in physical life, to connect to those signals that are actually there that we're so out of touch with. And so I'm hoping that in Web3, we can promote this, because I see the potential for, unfortunately, people to go way off and just totally disconnect. Michaela was talking about disembodied experiences. That can happen, but you can be very connected while you're in Web3. We've done these Twitter spaces where we're communicating. I get to talk to people around the world, and I at times feel so connected to myself and to those people I'm talking to, even though it's in this, not in physical life type of an experience. So I'm really excited about that promise that's there, that as we're forming the culture of Web3, we can create experiences that are actually more connected rather than disconnected.
Wow, I am so grateful for that. And to your point, Michaela, I think I'll pose this to you as a question. In this era of authenticity and togetherness and collaboration, I think I couldn't ask for a better transition for you to talk about proof of good. Being that Astromojis is now Oracle, and the ways that the DAO is functioning, and you or Jeff, feel free to tap into this. What are some ways that Proof of Good is building in this collaborative effort to address some of the impact that we need in the world? And Michaela, I'll let you go, and then Jeff, if you wanna go off of that, please feel free.
Yeah, well, I think like where we're really focusing now is really on Oracle. So some kind of social impact organization. It could be a for-profit, a not-for-profit, an academic institution that is involved with activities that we could fit into the UN Sustainable Development Goals, right? So health and wellness is one of those goals. And so what we really would want to do is to drive people to take actions on their own and other people's behalf toward mental health and well-being. It could be an education. It could be meditating. It could be doing some like learning conflict resolution. It could be brain entrainment, you know, like doing a muse session, right? Which we can then track. So then the Oracle, this organization that becomes part of our DAO, can validate and verify that these acts have taken place, and then whoever is doing that is earning good points towards NFTs, digital assets, and tokens. And at the same time, the Oracle is also earning for validating and verifying the acts. So the whole point is to create a kind of gamified, interconnected ecosystem, a web that kind of covers the entire planet, that will incentivize and reward these acts, and also at the same time give you like a single place where you can find who can I, you know, do these acts through and get them validated and verified, and then I can earn. So whether you want the NFTs or the tokens for yourself, or you donate it then to, okay, let's donate it to an organization that is doing mental health for homeless, or mental health for abused women, or mental health for, you know, foster care kids, or people who are survivors of environmental disasters or armed conflict. Like the whole country of Ukraine is like completely traumatized now. What are we going to do with all those people, right? You know, so this is kind of where we're going. I hope that answered your question.
It definitely did. And Jeff, if you wanted to add anything onto that or kind of speak on it from a mental health perspective, would love to hear your thoughts on it as well as another member of the DAO. Who is muted?
Jeff, you're muted.
Don't worry about it.
Still
Don't
muted. You're still muted.
It's just like a space. It's just like the DAO hall.
Let me tell you, yeah, I'm always muted, never speaking. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak here. It's fantastic. Yeah, Michaela, your points are incredibly well taken and salient. I think, especially, it's kind of hard to not get a little worn down working in the nonprofit space and trying to deliver impactful good philanthropically, because there is often so much red tape or bureaucracy that you have to step over, or these hurdles that you have to jump over, and that becomes really difficult. I know, Will, you've worked in a congressional office on a congressional bid in the past. I've worked similarly, like for a mayor's office, in a literacy program movement for those who maybe didn't get the best literacy education growing up. And it's really difficult, right? So how do we deliver that impact? How do we show that reward also for the impacts? It's one thing to be able to really understand it when you're there in person, when you have boots on the ground. But it's a much different thing when it's just a tax write-off or it's a donation. And I think that it's most impactful, obviously, when you're there in person, or at least we have the opportunity to take advantage of rich media assets and the full breadth of Web3 to be able to show exactly where your dollar goes in a meaningful manner. And if not provable and profitable with charity and donations based philanthropy, then, you know, going out to the beach, helping with the crosswalk, right? These are really simple steps that make the world a little bit better place. And we're trying to build that oracle and validation system out so that all of proof of goods oracles based on the proof of good protocol will be awarded with good points and good acts, which will turn into essentially a public sale and tokens that have real world value. So do good, get paid. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, making philanthropy provable and profitable to move forward. And this could be as simple as, you know, in I just moved down to Wilmington. Shout out to somebody else who's also moving on this call right now. I'm still trying to get out of boxes. I understand how stressful that is, but we've got a beach cleanup in Wilmington, that's happening today. There's also a soup kitchen effort that's happening today in Wilmington, and people can go, and if we deploy an Oracle system that allows the oracles themselves to issue good points, good and valid in. Sorry, let me take a step back. If we deploy an Oracle system that allows these oracles to validate and approve good points or good acts, then we're bolstering not only our media, but it allows those internationally to feel the impact. And it allows those that are actually on the ground to feel the impact themselves. And it could be as simple as scanning a QR code on your way out the door. 2 hours of time could be a couple $100 in your pocket. And with the model that Proof of Good has built with the Oracle system, there's no reason why philanthropy cannot be both trackable, provable, and delivering more impact to those that need the impact, as well as profitable for those that go out of their way to make the world a little bit easier for one another. And I look, I've been in the business around fintech and a number of nonprofit industries for years and years and years. Proof of Good and Astromojis is the reason that I'm here today, alongside all of our other gracious sponsors, Impact, Remo NFTs, Muse, my goodness, like, oh, and somebody that personally has like a deep dedication and affinity to mental health, OCD, baby, to the moon. It's really near and dear to my heart. Hell, I've been without insurance in the US for the past year and a half. And what is being proffered by Astromojis is changing what it is to have access to healthcare, not just within the US, but I think very importantly in the US, because the world doesn't have this sort of, or I should say, the US doesn't have the same access as most of the world in so many deleterious effects. And it's really close to my heart. I just want to give a big shout out, and I'm here for it. It's not always easy. In fact, it's most often tough, but tough things are built with good intentions, right? And Web3 opens itself to allow us to very easily identify whether bad actors within the space, whether it's through a decentralized identification system, a KYC AML with a traditional kind of Web2 type crypto, public sales, whatever that looks like. But the work towards mental health in the space and the communities and the networks that are being built. I mean, hell, Will, your Twitter spaces have done more impactful good than I can say for most of the psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, and therapists I've seen in my life. So big shout out. But I've never seen this sort of tsunami of support and safe spaces for individuals to both express and dox themselves and find community within that space to be able to find people, right? Save from anonymous style meetings, right? Which have their own kind of connotations and limitations as well. It's a fascinating time to be involved in it. I'm just happy to be on a room with the rest of you. So I realize that I've kind of gone way off the rails.
You are killing it. You're not off the rail at all, dude. You're fully in control of this train. That was absolutely amazing. Now, Jeff, I'm not even gonna let you try and self-deprecate. That was absolutely phenomenal. I'm gonna reiterate what he said. Just thanking everyone who participated in making this happen. To Astromojis, Impact, to Remo, to Muse, and the fact that we're on with the founder. Thank you, Chris, and your amazing team. To the doctors, to Dr. Owen and Dr. Fareed. Are you kidding me? The amazing artists. Like, thank you all so much for the work you do, because oftentimes this work is thankless. So I'm grateful that Jeff, thank you. And I want to reiterate the same. And Robert, I want to ask you this, and we're going to go down a line of conversation here about sustainability in these practices, right? We talked a lot about taking care of ourselves and kind of avoiding things like burnout, but having to also address these problems that exist. And so I wanted to start with you, Robert, on this line of conversation. As you're working and documenting in your way these various societal issues through your work, how do you sustain that? How do you keep yourself motivated and keep yourself from burning out in your own practice?
Oh man, what a incredible question, because the more the world becomes more complicated, and the older I get, the more intense it becomes to have to be completely devoted to self-discipline. So one of the things that I noticed about this organization here is that Wim Hof was one of the techniques that was something that was focused on. And you have to handle your own business. I sit in ice every day. I work out. I meditate. I cry. I do microdose a small amount of psilocybin. I go to therapy. I handle my business because it's just, you have to. It's not an easy world.
Wow. I mean, anyone who wants to jump in and try to follow that, I'm gonna follow. Go ahead.
MAPS project, MAPS project. I think they're doing fantastic work out of Colorado, I believe, with microdosing, but guided treatment using psilocybin amongst other maybe hallucinogenic or psychotropics for treatment. And and I mean, again, going back to impact, the impact on this is huge in a controlled environment, right? And until, if you're not a resident of Colorado, for those types of treatments or part of the MAPS project with certain studies, I'll leave it there. But yes, yeah, a big shout out. I'm picking up what you're putting down, Robert.
I just wanted to add, what Robert said is very important, because, a lot of people don't think that mental health is the same necessity as, a 911 call or going to the gym, or, I don't know, getting a toothbrush. Like if you don't brush your teeth or take a shower for a long time, you may not smell great, you may not feel great, and you can see it. You can see it, you can feel it. Now, mental health is very, similar. A lot of people who've been treating, taking care of their mental health as something like, oh, I'm not sick, I don't need this. If you treat it like that, then you're going to start reeking of, bad mental health / wellness hygiene, which will, maybe people may not notice it right away. Maybe you're good at first impressions, but very soon it will apply in your performance. It will apply in your circle, in your relationships, and so on and so forth. So yeah, taking care of your business, is absolutely important. And in regards to Wim Hof, Astromojis plans to give 1,000 Wim Hof courses as soon as we hit 1,000, which we have less than 200 more sales to go before we give those out. 1,000 Wim Hof courses when we're sold out. We have 3,000 in total. But one of the first things we said is like, hey, I hate cold water, but if we win, I'll definitely try that out. And of course, Wim Hof is awesome, and what you said, I think is great. Yeah.
If I can just, it's interesting what Arya was just saying about like it's a big, something I'm very passionate about, like physical or medical illnesses and mental illness. Now we make such a distinction, and unfortunately we tend to value medical illnesses so much more than mental illness. But even look at some of the things that are brought up, like the ice bath that you take. Robert, it's a physical thing, but it's affecting your mental health, right? So we make these distinctions, but of course it's like they're so interconnected. It's like I was reading a quote, I'm going to butcher it, I don't remember who said it, but it's basically like nature just exists. We just cut it up into these pieces and think this is this and this is that. But our human experience includes physical and mental, and they're all interconnected. And so I'm very passionate about talking about mental health so that it becomes more okay to talk about mental health. Because anytime I see, I know I used to say a client on my couch, but now let's say on a video session, I know that it's probably been 6 months, a few years that they've been dealing with this issue and they're finally getting help, because we tend to think, well, I should deal with it on my own, or people will think I'm crazy if I go to therapy or whatever else it might be, that unfortunately the stigma gets in the way of people getting help. But the more we can talk about mental illness and recognize that it's just part of the human experience, just like we all have physical pains that we're going to go through. We all have mental and emotional pains that we experience. It's not just some people will have them. The more we can make it okay to talk about them, the stigma becomes less, the taboo becomes less, and people can seek out the help that they need, including getting support from one another. So I'm all about, Robert, you said you cry. I thought that was beautiful, because I think we think we're not supposed to be sad. We think we're supposed to just be happy all the time. That's not even the human experience. And that's not even a meaningful human experience. Well, it has to include the sad feelings, all the feelings that we have. And so the more we could talk about that and make that okay, and will you do those in the spaces that you've created, it's just that sharing the human experience, which includes all these positive and negative experiences, that's what makes life really meaningful.
I'm so grateful for that. And I also, Robert, was very grateful for that acknowledgement. I was sharing it in a space that for many years I had been deeply self-deprecating, and internally was not like a fun place to be, but externally I would always be smiling and always be trying to project positivity. But it took me to realizing one day that I was suffering from like a deep level of self-hatred. And the night that I realized that I started to love myself, that I genuinely felt that, I cried in my car. It was crazy, but it was because I had to unlearn all these society kind of telling us we're not supposed to do those things. You're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to express yourself. But as soon as I allowed myself that inch, and then I took the mile, and now I look in the mirror, I'm like, I like this guy. But it required that first step of admittance. And so, Robert, really, I just wanted to jump in with Dr. Fried and thank you for that, because I think that, there's a lot of people that are going to, everyone on the stage, thank you all so much. There was so much wisdom shared, and so much just clear passion for helping our community. So thank you all so much. And I know we're running out of some time. I want to, first of all, thank you all so much personally. Again, thank you to Astromojis, to Proof of Good DAO, to Muse, and to Impact for creating this amazing event. I can't even put a hand on the impact this is going to have, but I know it'll be great. And Michaela, I would love if we could kind of wrap on some communal self-care. I know in the Proof of Good DAO halls, we got to experience a bit of that, but if you could kind of bring us through some Michaela self-care leading, I would love that if you'd be into it.
Sure. And I just have to say, as the only woman on this panel, and men, at least in the United States, are really entrained not to cry or show. You're allowed to express anger, but the spectrum of emotions that as men, otherwise you're considered weak or less than. It's intense. So this is very interesting. So I'm glad.
And hey, next year we'll make sure that this is a 50% panel. We'll make sure that anyway, you're not the only one next time.
But and the point is that for all the men out there, it's attending to yourself with love and care is as important as for anyone else or anything else. If you had a small child, if you have a little toddler boy, you're not going to be telling him not to cry. You want to give him love. So really, the only way that we can have a healthy planet and healthy society and really love and care for one another is if we start with ourselves. You cannot have that if inside yourself you feel like in some way you're bad, wrong, not worthy, not lovable, not good enough, whatever it is. So we really have to start there. And like Robert, I do a lot of self-care practices, but I don't even think about it like that. They're so baked into my life because it's so intolerable for me to live in the kind of states of pain and anxiety that so many people live. Like, that's just not okay for me. So really, I just want to encourage all of you, please, please, please love yourself. Know that you are intrinsically worthy. Your intrinsic worth and lovability, you can't decrease that or increase it because it's absolute. It's a fact of your existence. So please take care of yourself. Reach out for help. Get connected with people. Whatever you're feeling, you're not alone in this. Millions of people have the same thing. The human condition, we share it together. So there is nothing that you might think or feel inside yourself that millions of other people aren't thinking and feeling. And the more that you take care of your health and well-being, the more you add value and contribution to this world. And then you become a model for other people. Now you're spreading that good just because of how you're taking care of yourself. People have so much, rather than me trying to tell somebody, oh, you need to eat like this. If they just see me doing it, I've had so many people say, like, how do you do that? How do you, and they're just watching what I'm doing, the same way little children learn from their parents. So not only can you improve your life and the ones that you're connected with, but when people see you taking care of yourself, you give permission for other people to do the same thing. So please, 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 just start with some small action. And now you have so many resources here with Astromojis. It's amazing. So I hope that does it. Will, is that
that was more than I ever could have dreamed, and I'm so grateful. Aria, I see you. Yo, go ahead, jump in.
Yeah, I know we're almost out of time. I just wanted to say, like, you can start at any time, and no matter how high up you think you are at the scale of, like, being healthy in regards to mental health and stuff, you can always continue going. One thing I appreciate about Farid, Dr. Farid, on our weekday mornings sessions, he says that he has to wrap up because he has to go see his own therapist, and he's a clinical psychologist. On the other hand, I am one of the co-organizers of this event, and I still suck at my work and life balance. I stayed up, probably 40 hours for this. I still didn't sleep. Shout out to Jean for, staying up, Marwan, Remo, all these people, we're not perfect at this, but, I try to start with crumbs where I can and, build a momentum of what fits my lifestyle until I can get to the level that I want. So don't think that, oh, it's very hard to start. I don't even know what to do or what to say. You can come join our Discord or Proof of Good. Ask questions to anyone over here on Decentraland. Ask Chris, Dr. Farid, Dr. Owen, and we're all happy to help.
Unreal. I don't know that I could say anything to add on to that other than just to reiterate what Michaela said. Everybody listening right now, you are uniquely great in a way that no other human is, and channel that because we need it. We're in this together. We're a global community, and we want to see what that looks like. Whatever way you manifest your dreams, please do so, and take care of yourself. Drink more water, y'all. Breathe. Take a deep breath. I need to breathe more every day. And shout out to Gene for all the amazing work that he did building this amazing event, to the team of Astromojis for putting this all together, and to our amazing partners like Muse and Chris Ayamone, to our amazing doctors like Dr. Farid Halakwi and Dr. Omur and Robert Sturman and Marwan Shahid and Michaela and Jeff. I'm gonna thank you all because you're all amazing. And I see Remo's here too. Thank you, dude. This is a landmark of my life. You are amazing. So I'll just say that personally. I'm like on the border of tears right now. Y'all are amazing. This is it. The first ever mental health event in Decentraland, y'all. Come on now.
Yo.
Woohoo!
What's up? We did it, yo.
We did it. Thank you. Thank you, Altcoin Radio. Thank you to Gene, Remo, Impact NFTs, Muse, Astromoji, Proof of Good. Thank you, everyone. We're going to continue the conversations, so stay tuned. And then after that, we have some music for you.